The attic smelled of dust and forgotten things. Damian wiped sweat from his forehead as he pushed aside another cobweb-covered box. He wasn't sure what he was looking for, only that after Lyselle's warning, he needed answers. And if his family had any connection to the Veil, their old house might hold clues. Then he saw it. Tucked beneath a loose floorboard, wrapped in faded blue cloth, was a small leather journal. The moment Damian touched it, a strange tingling ran up his fingers, like static electricity. He opened it carefully, the brittle pages crackling. The handwriting was achingly familiar, his great-great-grandfather's. But the words changed everything. June 3rd, 1892. Today I met her. A spirit who walks like living flesh. She calls herself a Veilbreaker. When she smiles, the very air shivers. Damian's hands trembled as he turned the page. July 14th. I was trained to guard the Veil, to stop crossings. But how can I stop her? She moves between worlds like breathing. The council suspects. They say a Veilbreaker will unravel everything. They don't see her laugh when it rains. Page after page, the entries grew more desperate. August 30th. The Warden comes. It took a child last night, one who merely glimpsed the other side. Clara says we can run, but where? The Hollow? Even she fears that place. The ink smears here. Was he crying? Then the final entry. September 9th. They gave me the silver dagger. The one that can cut a soul from the Veil. Clara doesn't know. When she kisses me goodnight, all I taste are lies. God forgive me. The journal ended there. Damian sat frozen, the words burning in his mind. His ancestor, a guardian sworn to protect the Veil, had loved a Veilbreaker. And then, a floorboard creaked behind him. Ivy stood in the attic doorway, her form flickering slightly. Damian? I've been looking everywhere for. She stopped, seeing his face. What's wrong? He couldn't speak. Couldn't tell her. Not yet. Because the pattern was clear. Guardian and Veilbreaker. Protector and destroyer. History was repeating itself. And somewhere in the darkness, the Warden waited. Chloe's reflection was no longer her own. She pressed her palms against the bathroom mirror, breathing hard as her pupils flickered, one moment normal, the next swallowing her irises whole like black ink spreading through water. The whispers had become screams inside her skull, voices of the dead crowding her thoughts until she couldn't tell where their memories ended and hers began. You're one of us now, the voices crooned. Not alive, not dead. Just, in between. A knock at the door made her jump. Chloe. Ivy's voice called through the wood. You've been in there forever. Are you? Go away. Chloe snarled, then gasped at the sound of her own voice. It echoed strangely, as if multiple people were speaking through her throat. Silence. Then the doorknob turned. Ivy stepped inside, her semi-transparent form glowing faintly in the dim light. Her eyes widened. Your hands. Chloe looked down. Her fingertips were turning gray, the color leaching up her fingers like frost creeping across glass. She stumbled back. What's happening to me? Before Ivy could answer, the air shimmered behind them. A woman materialized from nowhere, tall, with a long scar running down her neck. Viv. Took you long enough to notice, Viv said dryly, examining Chloe like a specimen. Congratulations, kid. You're a seer. From a bloodline that should have stayed dormant. Ivy moved between them. What did you do to her? Viv barked a laugh. Me? This is your mess, Spirit Walker. Every time you tore through the Veil, you left cracks. And little Chloe here. She tapped Chloe's forehead, making her flinch. She was born with the key to those cracks in her blood. Chloe's knees buckled. The tiles felt icy against her skin as she slumped to the floor. Make it stop, she begged, watching in horror as her veins darkened beneath her skin. Viv's expression softened almost. Can't undo what's been awakened. But... She glanced at Ivy. The first seers learned to control the voices. There's a place that can teach you. Ivy stiffened. You mean the Black Hollow? Only place strong enough to shield her while she learns. Viv tilted her head. Course, the Warden's already hunting you three. And now? She gestured to Chloe's transforming hands. You're carrying a neon sign straight to it. A sudden crash came from downstairs, glass shattering. The temperature plummeted. Viv's head snapped up. Speak of the devil. The house lights flickered. Something scraped against the outside wall's long, slow drags, like claws testing the wood. Chloe's blackened fingers dug into Ivy's arm. It's here for me, she whispered. And in the silence that followed, they all heard it, 3 slow, deliberate knocks on the front door. Sleep had become dangerous. Ivy knew this the moment her eyelids grew heavy, her consciousness slipping like sand through fingers. The veil between waking and dreaming felt thinner, now too thin. She tried to fight it, gripping the edges of her blanket until her knuckles turned white, but the pull was relentless. The world dissolved into smoke. When the haze cleared, Ivy stood in a forest of silver trees, their leaves shimmering like coins in an unseen wind. Above her, the moon hung swollen and pale, casting everything in ghostly light. This wasn't her dream. She was somewhere else. Somewhere between. A whisper of movement behind her. Ivy turned slowly. The warden stood barely an arm's length away, taller than any person had a right to be, its form shifting between solid and smoke. Light and shadow curled around it like living things, sometimes forming something like a face before dissolving again. It had no true shape, no true voice, yet when it spoke, the words vibrated through Ivy's bones. Asterisk, you should not be here. Asterisk. Ivy forced herself not to step back. You've been hunting me. I want to know why. The warden tilted its head, or at least, the space where a head should be. Asterisk, you tear what should not be torn. You wake what should sleep. Asterisk, a ripple passed through its form. Asterisk, the child with Seer's blood burns too bright now. Because of you. Asterisk. Chloe. Ivy's chest tightened. I didn't mean to. Asterisk, intent does not mend the veil. Asterisk, the warden drifted closer, the air around it growing colder. Asterisk, your path splits now, fire or silence. Choose. Asterisk. What does that mean? Asterisk, fire will cleanse the imbalance, your light, the Seers, all of it. A return to nothing. Asterisk, the warden extended a hand that was not a hand, shadows pooling in its palm. Asterisk, or silence. The hollow. The endless dark. Walk there willingly, and the tearing stops. Asterisk. The trees around them began to blacken, leaves crumbling to ash. The dream was unraveling. Ivy woke with a gasp, her body drenched in cold sweat. Across the room, Chloe twitched in her sleep, her darkened fingers clutching at empty air. Outside the window, the first hints of dawn tinged the sky, but something else glowed faintly against the glass. Fingerprints. Burning. Like someone or something had pressed their hands against the pane and left scorch marks behind. The warden wasn't just in dreams anymore. It was here. The ghost child screamed, a sound like breaking glass and dying echoes before she came apart. One moment, she stood in the clearing where Ivy had first met her, her small face twisted in terror. The next, an invisible force yanked her backward, her form stretching like taffy before snapping. Pale light burst outward, then collapsed inward, sucked into a single dark point that vanished with a sound like a gasp. Ivy stood frozen, her hands still outstretched toward where the girl had been. The air smelled of ozone and something older, something like the space between stars. What just? Lyselle's cane struck the ground beside her. The old archivist's milky eyes were wide, her usually steady hands shaking. Second death, she whispered. The warden grows impatient. Ivy whirled on her. What does that mean? It means, Lyselle said grimly, that thing isn't just trapping souls anymore. It's eating them. Erasing them from existence. She turned her blind gaze toward the scorched trees. And it's doing it to grow stronger. A cold wind slithered through the branches. Somewhere far off, something howled, a sound that wasn't animal or human, but something caught between. Ivy's fists clenched. We have to move. Now. Lyselle caught her arm. You don't understand. The warden isn't just hunting you anymore, it's learning from you. Every move you make, every soul you try to help. She gestured to the empty clearing. It's using them as kindling. The truth hit Ivy like a physical blow. Every spirit she'd spoken to, every lost soul she tried to reassure, the warden had followed her trail and devoured them. And Chloe. Ivy's breath came fast. Chloe wasn't just transforming. She was becoming a beacon, one the Warden would sniff out and snuff without hesitation. No more running, Ivy said, her voice hard. We find the first Veilbreaker. We fix the tears in the veil. And we stop the Warden for good. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rumbled except the sky was clear. The ground trembled faintly, as if something massive had just taken a step closer. Lyselle's face paled. It hears you when you speak of it. Good, Ivy said, staring into the gathering dark. Let it come. The candle flame guttered as Ivy pressed her palm against Damian's chest, directly over his heartbeat. The ritual was simple at least, it was supposed to be. A spirit walker's tether to the living world, an anchor to keep her from drifting too far. But the veil had other plans. The moment Ivy whispered the binding words, a sound like tearing fabric filled the room. Pain lanced through her ribs, sharp and sudden, as if something had hooked her soul and yanked. Then, she was standing in two places at once. Half of her remained in the dim candlelight, her fingers still pressed to Damian's shirt. The other half stood in a grey wasteland where the sky churned like dirty water. The air smelled of burnt hair and wet stone. In the distance, something tall and jagged moved between the ruins of broken pillars, its head turning slowly toward her. Ivy. Damian's voice came from far away, muffled as if through thick glass. Your hand. She looked down, both of herselves looked down and saw the horror unfolding. The hand touching Damian was turning translucent, veins glowing an eerie blue beneath fading skin. But the hand in the wasteland was darker, the fingers beginning to blacken at the tips like frostbitten flesh. The thing in the distance took a step closer. Asterisk, little thief. Asterisk, its voice was the crackle of dead leaves underfoot. Asterisk, you stole yourself back from the dark. Now we take twice as much. Asterisk. Damian grabbed Ivy's flickering wrist. Fight it. Pull yourself back. But Ivy couldn't tell which way was back anymore. The pain was everywhere, in her bones, in her breath, in the terrible stretching feeling as the two halves of her soul strained further apart. Chloe suddenly appeared at Damian's side, her seer-blackened fingers gripping Ivy's other arm. She's not just split, Chloe gasped. She's feeding them. The in-between is drinking her light. The thing in the wasteland was running now, its two long limbs unfolding like spider legs. Ivy's vision doubled, tripled. She saw the attic room. She saw the wasteland. And worse, she saw the space between those places, where shadowy figures crowded close, their mouths open as if waiting for crumbs of her soul to fall. Damian pressed his forehead to Ivy's fading hand. I won't let go, he swore. But the Warden never let go either.